Embark on your journey, the path you must take. Though hate may surround you, it's not your fate to forsake. Co-creating your destiny in the dance of time. The guiding light within you ignites the sublime. It is the light, the guiding light from the heart and soul. Don't lose control. Let it be the light, shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. In the depths of your being, the truth resides. Embrace your power, let your spirit rise. With every step forward, you transcend the expanded conscious community we commend. Through trials and triumphs, your soul evolves in the symphony of life, where every note resolves. Listen to the whispers of your inner voice. In unity and love, let your heart rejoice. It is the light, the guiding light from the heart and soul. Don't lose control. Let it be the light, shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. It is the light, the guiding light from the heart and soul. Don't lose control. Let it be the light, shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. As we gather together in this sacred space, embracing transformation with grace. Life Coach Malachi leads the way in unlocking potential day by day. Embracing transformation with grace. Life Coach Malachi leads the way, unlocking potential day by day.
Hope y'all ready. It's gonna be a good show. Make sure you like and share. Hey, what's up? I ready to get this party on the road. Let's see who's in the room. Who is in the room? I'll pull Miss Deidre up here in a second. Just say a few great. Miss LaSonia, it's good to see you and all your gifts and talents. Miss Marie, Mother White, yes. All right, Miss Claudine. Oh, Women Worthy of Love. I'm sorry, from Claudine, South Carolina. Okay, good. Awesome. Well, I know there will be some more people coming into the room. but we're going to get the ball rolling. This evening, of course, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm sorry, I look at my hair, and if something's straggling, it annoys me. Mental Health Awareness Month, and so, of course, what does that mean? You know, we're going to deep dive a little bit into that. But tonight's show is from spiritual health to mental health, integrating the soul for wholeness. In this evening, we're going to talk about how these things are not separate. Although we do know that people deal with, you know, you got mental health, which everyone has mental health that we can work on, but mental illness is something completely different. So make sure you like and share. And I know people will jump into this and begin to watch it, but we will be on with the show. Before I bring Miss Deidre, because she's going to work with me on this. Thank you for the music there. Hope everyone is well this evening. But tonight we're going to deep dive into something that touches, I think, all of us. Something that we've all experienced, and even if we don't have words for it, but the relationship between your spiritual health and mental health, because in truth, they are not separate. They are different expressions of the same truth. Your inner world creates your outer reality. More than we know or want to or can even comprehend, given the fact that spiritual or anything to do with spirit or spirituality, also leading into words and terms like intuition, and also leads to things like energy and vibration, frequency. But how those words don't necessarily line up with things like within religious structures. Christianity being one big one that we know of, and then all the other Abrahamic faiths. Anything to do with spirit usually is directly tied to do with God, and anything that has to do with God typically is going to 100% align with a person talking about their religious beliefs. And we try our best in the world. They try their best not to separate spirituality from your whole entire life. And then they give the preacher, the pastor, or the priest, the leader, they give them all the power. But we're going to start. We live in a world that knows how to diagnose depression, but not the disconnection. We can name anxiety, but we can't name spiritual abandonment or spiritual bypassing. We treat symptoms of the soul through a lot of religious acts, but we rarely sit with ourselves or sit with the soul. And that's where this talk begins, not with the mind, but also with understanding the spirit. And I will go as far as to say, I want to have more talks and lessons even beyond this live on the differences between spirituality, spirit, religion, and all those things. But that and consciousness, because consciousness is is kind of in a bracket. It's in a space all by itself. It's outside of even. I would say consciousness could be related close to the interconnected systems that are truly connected to the source, right? The source of life, possibly been the source, but really the true connection to the source. I hope this excites you, because hopefully you will get something that you can implement, something that you can be aware of, something that you can add to. As the saying goes, what do you believe? Why do you believe it? And how do those beliefs add or subtract to the quality of your life? We're going to bring a person that I consider an operations chief of operations, if you will. Person is really bringing this together, encouraging, uplifting, and making this, helping build this community and what it is. And it is what it is, and it's going to do what it's going to do. And I think we're going to find out a lot over the years, especially over the next year. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and bring Miss Deidre up on the screen. Hey.
Hey.
Well, it's good to have you. Good to have you with me as we work on this and talk about this subject together. And I have a few things, a few notes, and you can ad lib. I know that, and bring whatever you have. And I think it would be this would be a fun. I'm all for trying different things. And so, what do you think so far? Did you hear anything I said?
I did hear everything you said. Yeah, I did hear it. So sounds good so far. And I think we already have our first question in the comments.
Oh, let's go for it.
Yeah.
How do emotions play with our mental health?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Miss Deidre? You want to go for it first?
Miss Marie, thank you for that wonderful question. I think two things exist: mental health, which we've established that mental health, everyone has mental health. Mental health is a spectrum of poor mental health, or unmanaged mental health, and to the other side is well-regulated mental health, or what people call good mental health. And then there are emotions, and everyone has emotions, and emotions can be dysregulated. A person may not be able to control their emotions. That's one spectrum of it. Unmanaged emotions. And then on the other side of it, you have well-regulated emotions. So they go hand in hand. And when your mental health is in a good space, emotional regulation is easier to achieve. Case in point, a lot of times if we went through a lot of trauma and things like that, we usually tend to be numb or desensitized to things, and we don't allow ourselves to feel. So as we move towards feeling and sitting with the discomfort of the feelings that we have often ignored due to unresolved trauma, once we start on that healing journey and you start processing that unresolved trauma, and you have to sit and feel, that's when, and sometimes you may not even be able to name the emotion, but once you get in tune with that and understand how emotions are, then you will easily be able to identify when either one is out of balance. Your mental health is not being well managed, or your emotions are not well managed, because you have to be able to recognize your emotions, what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and then do whatever techniques you need to do to regulate yourself. So I think it's really important. That was an excellent question. And it can be something that can also help you when you're interacting with loved ones. Um, I know I can give personal experience. If I'm deeply triggered, I can recognize it. A trigger can is something that causes you to almost go back in time and pull back a traumatic experience. Something you're currently dealing with is triggering you to a past trauma. So triggers, I've learned through a very wise person, that triggers are meant to be information. So when you get triggered, it's quick. It's important to not react in the trigger, but figure out why you're being triggered. Go back to that. Go back to what that trigger is reminding you of, and then and sit there. If you have to write out what you're feeling, and just kind of process and reprocess through. It's important not to act out your triggers. Easier said than done, but as you go on the journey for healthier responses to things, you'll find it easier to do. So yes, mental health, stress can impact your mental health. Like stressful situations can impact your mental health. Stressful situations can impact your emotions. And then if you already have a pre-existing mental health condition that needs to be managed daily, like a major depressive disorder or anxiety disorder, it's really important that you manage those things so that you can always recognize your emotions and regulate them. That's my 2 cents.
Beautiful, beautiful. Some of the highlights that I would say that I heard from Miss Deidre is she used the words feeling, feel, FEEL, feel. How do we feel? How do we know what we're feeling? How can we connect to what we're feeling? And one of the things that we have been taught not to do is feel. Have you ever heard get out of your feelings? Or talk about even get out of your emotions? And the emotions, some form of it, especially whenever they are triggered or when you see the outward expression, because not all emotion are bad. We can display joy as an emotion. And the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and when you don't have reality. And or I'm sorry, when it's just in reality of what you're dealing with and things that are in your mind, right? So it's like if you see a snake when you're outside rumbling around and you see a snake, and as you jump back and you move, you find out it's an old piece of rope that looks like a snake, and when you hit it, it moved. Your body still will respond to that rope like it was a snake. You calm down mentally, but your adrenaline and everything else still can go up. So that feeling that you get when you see that is an emotional reaction. So it causes you to go to fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's in the amygdala. And the body, of course, will take place and do what it does. From a metaphysical standpoint, all the way moving up to, as we quote, graduate into a emotionally, whether we consider managed or a person that can considered experienced, or when I think about the individual people that are, from Jesus to the gurus that walk around us today, people that are able to just be into this space in this world. Some people just have been doing what they've been doing for a long time, and they just don't have any fear. I remember I was walking out of a hotel with Miles Monroe, and he was sick, and we had just done a video, and he was and we were just walking out, and I was taking him somewhere. I think I was driving him from a hotel to Oral Roberts to the school. And he was there was a bird right there. We were walking out, the bird flew away. He was like, oh, brother. I'm sick. But I'm like that bird right there. That bird is built to fly, and I'm built to do what I'm doing. That's what, I mean, this was like real time, nobody around. And you could just tell regardless, like he was a person, regardless of the full theology, you could tell that he was well regulated with who he was. So those feelings is something that are really important to me. That's probably one of your emotions connected to your feelings is one of the most important things for alchemy, and one of the most important things for you to go into the next level of who we are as a spiritual beings, for who we are into the next iteration of being able to go to the next level, being able to handle certain things. And so being able to feel it. And then Deidre also talked about, being able to almost like name it, being able to call it something, right? Joy, peace, I feel like this, I feel like that, whatever the feeling is. And once you have that feeling, you know that my daughter, this is probably the main one, will get me on a tirade because last night she was on the couch. And she always falls asleep on the couch. And we don't want her falling asleep on the couch because she's hard to get up off the couch, right? And she was getting a little snuggy, getting snugged up in there. Her mom was like, get out the couch. Like, but she started soft. All right, Sophia, you need to go to bed. You need to get off the couch. And she was there, and she said it again and said it again. She's like, I know, I'm going to. And that could put me in a mode where I'm like, bro, like, dude, we do not want to mess with trying to wake you up and get you off of there because you're going to wake up all crazy. And like, it's not even like that. I'm like, come on now. Like, listen, like we're the parents and we can't even tell you like just nicely to do something. And you see what I'm saying? But the thing is like, I noticed that I'm getting into that mode but it still keeps me from being like, Nick, get the fuck off the couch. You know what I mean? Because I'm not into that beat mode, but I might be into that cuss mode. You know what I mean? Just because of the fact that part of it is just showing an emotion, but the other part is I'm in my emotions. Like my dogs can get me in my emotions because I'm very strict on my dog. But I can now notice it. My wife can tell me something. My dog do. I have one dog. We train them, but one of them wants to walk away. And she know I don't play. Chloe, what are you doing? And she turn around and look. And she just start inching back over, right? And if I catch her, but my wife can tell me she's done something. And I can feel in my body, I'm getting irritated. Like it already happened and it's over and I'm getting irritated. Like, why am I getting irritated? I don't mean to really go ham into this, but I'm telling you, one of the greatest things that you can ever do is being able to, when you think about spirituality and you think about your mental health, and then you think about how you are feeling, whether you're going through the dark night of the soul, whether you're going through like illnesses, or whether you're going through whatever you're going through in your life, being able to feel it, being able to name it, being able to listen to it, right? Being able to move through it. Jesus, this is a course. Feel it, name it, listen to it, move through it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to move it into something. You're going to transform that feeling, right? And being able to regulate. And the more you can regulate, the more that you can actually then begin to switch and change. You can move right into this mode of being able to change your cells, moving. Now you can move into what they call is some quantum stuff, being able to move that emotion from one place to another. PTSD, grief, like we can still now today, like, I mean, when did you learn, if ever, when did we ever learn about, PTSD or complex PTSD? So when you deal with religion, is a complex post-traumatic stress syndrome, religious trauma. When you deal with post-traumatic slave syndrome, right? When you deal with all these different things, like these things lead to emotions, and emotions lead to outbursts or lead to other things. And we can't just be like, okay, I'm gonna feel this. What am I feeling? I'm feeling this, right? I'm gonna feel it. I'm gonna name it, right? As I pound through that, I'm sit with my body and I'm hear it, and I'm gonna move it through. And then I'm going to change. I'm going to do my best, if I need to cry. I'm going to do my best to transform that emotion. And it's we need to be connected to our emotions more than anything. And that's one of the reasons why I am a meditation believer. Like, one of the greatest things is being able to sit with yourself, sit with your mind, and practice being able to listen to a guided meditation, not just to check it off the box. Don't meditate to check it off the box. You meditate as a practice of what it's doing to your mind and what it's doing to your physical brain, and what it's working within your consciousnesses and within who you are, going within, and then being able to understand and connect to the outer world and coming back in that balance. And so your brain is firing and doing this, right? And then you can end up moving into the spiritual realm. And some people begin to astral travel and do all kinds of stuff because they have learned how to being able to regulate regulate their emotions, feel their emotions. You still gonna have them, but I guarantee you, the better a person is at being able to sit with the thoughts, feel their thoughts, see their thoughts, right? Because the thinking is what gets us either in trouble, or the thinking actually is what puts us in anxiety. The thinking does all this. And how do we get to a non-thinking state, right? And that is 100% through meditation. One of the things I would like to say also is that as we talk about spiritual health along with mental health, we're not talking about religious practices. They want you to go to church for so often that relates to church. I mean, it relates to spirituality. And even for those who are in the spiritual world and they deal with crystals, I'm not talking about how many crystals you have, right? If you do all your spiritual practices, that's whatever they are, that's great. If you can quote scripture, that's great. I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm talking about the connection. I'm talking about the essence, spirit, what the unknown, the known unknown. And I'm talking about the connection and the alignment, and about how knowing who you are beneath all those roles, beneath all those beliefs, and beneath all outside of all that noise. Because a spiritual healthy person is someone who has an inner understanding. Not just an understanding, but the essence of who you are. I need a B flat. E flat, E flat, E flat. These things are anchored in the purposes of connecting to something that is greater than the ego. and being able to navigate the storms of life, going within and not reacting to something outside of them. So what would you say the connections, what happens when these connections are served, right? It's amazing how the mental health, the spiritual health has a direct tie to your mental health, and how your spiritual health can help your mental health, when what happens in religion is your spiritual health really begins to mess up your mental health. Although there's been some story, some things that they say that people have had success on, depending on the research, that when people believe outside themselves, it's easier for them whenever they believe outside themselves, even though it's them believing outside themselves, but it's still them believing outside themselves. So you're really not necessarily maybe getting like help from the outside. You're just believing in that entity outside of you is helping you. But come on, y'all. One of the things that on the spiritual side, we'll talk about some of the mental side. I mean, the mental health side, but I'll tell you on the mental health side of this, and Deidre can probably talk to this, is you hear the term the words dark night of the soul. It's something in the spiritual spaces, in the cult spaces, in the certain, it's starting to be more popular, but this is something I don't think we talk about it enough in mental health circles. But outside of even the spiritual space, I would say it's real. And as you go through them yourself, and I believe pretty much everyone over the age, you experience all sorts of different things, but by the time you were 30 and 40 years old, most likely you can really start calling them out. Dark night of soul is something that is not cute. It's not cool. It is all about spiritual growth. And sometimes it can feel like death, possibly the death of who you are. Sometimes you could feel like you're losing your mind or out of your mind or not really within the space and time. And a lot of that has to do with the false self, the false person of who you thought that you were. And the more you get involved with expanded consciousness, you're going to begin to ask more questions. And, you might feel broken. And this is where people get confused. They love to talk about church hurt. And they try to make church hurt out to be like that's a group of people and somebody done something to you, and it doesn't mean that you should leave church and church is wrong. It means that you got hurt by those people in the church, but every other church is fine, and you just got church hurt, so you want to hate against the church, or you don't want to like the church. So in other words, what you're saying when you say church hurt is the fact that the church is fine, you got hurt by somebody in a church, and you want to blame the church, all the churches for it. So basically they don't want to take responsibility or allow people to go research or allow people to discover the multitude or the multitude of the facets of the church. If you go into the Patreon community, you will see there's a 3-hour video that talks about the entire lineage of the Christian church, pretty much starting from before the Roman Catholic Church, and how it has been broken down or out into thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of denominations. And for some reason, they have us believing that the Protestants in America have us believing that they are the official church to all church. They are the official God to all gods. They are the official Jesus to all Jesus, right? And they use the power of media. They use the power of money. They use all these things. They use the power of influence to say that they're right, you are wrong. We using the word of God. I recently heard Philip Anthony Mitchell talk about a guy that doesn't, not affiliated with most of this stuff, but I can tell he's just questioning. And he asked about psychics, and Philip, with his demeanor, which is very, 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 it's very masculine. It's very dominating because, and then it's unique to the Brooklyn, New York accent, the way he moves his mouth and his terms. Like, all this is, I'm not sure if he knows it, but there's a lot of what we call neurolinguistic programming, even within his demeanor. I don't think he knows he's doing it, but it's a lot of neurolinguistic programming. He reiterated, I almost want to find that video, D, just because he reiterated over and over again, anything to do with psychics, crystals, sage, anything to do with that, and not according to Philip Mitchell, not according to me, but according to the word of God. It says in chapter, and he goes into like these scriptures, and he's so sure. He's so sure that he's right. But the way he gets away with it is because he kept digging into the fact that it's not my word. It's not my word. It's the word of God. This comes directly from the word of God. This comes directly. And it's like they have taken that Bible, colonization and everything else, in a Roman Catholic, all the way down to evangelicals, Pentecostals, have taken the Bible and literally made that Bible out to be a weapon. And he never talks about his interpretation of it. He never talks about, I know I'm going deep into that outside of the spiritual mental health situation, but I'm here to tell you, neurolinguistic programming is a way to actually essentially influence people, or it's like almost like hypnotizing. And you can literally tell, like, there's levels of hypnotizing people, getting people to believe what you got to say, just because of the fact that you going to use what we've been using. Like, this is the word of God. This is the word of God. And, this is not my word. So I'm going to demonize any and everyone else based on what I got to say. And then I'm going to take it off of me and say, this is not me, this is God. But then you're the one that has to describe who God is. Sorry. Ooh. You got to describe it. That's a dark night of the soul as far as I'm concerned, so it'll make people feel kind of off whenever people want to ask a question, and they'd be like, well, I don't believe all this other stuff in the Bible. But I'm here to tell you the dark night of the soul is stages that I think you'll always go through whenever you're going through spiritual growth. Sometimes there's signs that you would have from your soul, that you would have that you're being placed into that. I'm going through various weird kind of health things. But I know throughout my time and throughout life, especially 48 going on 49, that as you go through certain things in life, and if you're going through something in life, I think it's better for you to position it, and your outcomes are better to position it in a space of understanding that, hey, I can change my cells, I can epigenetically change things, I can change my reality, right? And I'm starting to feel, and I'm like, you know what? This is a dark night of the soul moment. This is one of those moments. And the biggest thing is how not to get triggered. Real quick, I know I went crazy on Philip Anthony Mitchell, but Deidre, if you have something.
Oh, whenever somebody mentions Philip Anthony Mitchell, I just let them go because Philip Anthony Mitchell runs me low. Anyway, I think what you talked about, though, is truly an important component to this spiritual and mental health discussion, because most of our backgrounds has been in some form of religious structure, church, what have you, in America. With that being said, we were raised with certain ideals and things like that. And then if we went to church, and if the more fundamentalist the church was, the more rigid the rules were. And so when you get into this journey of expanded consciousness, you're going to have conflict. You're going to have conflict. You're going to have probably most likely that dark night of the soul. And so it's an important thing, because if you think about, if you grew up in any kind of level of fundamentalism, then going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist was nearly unheard of. You pray about it, you go to your pastor about it, or they're going to cast the demon out of you. Right? So no personal accountability, no tangible tools. Prayer and deliverance are what you have. Now, can prayer help you? Absolutely. Prayer is a tool. But then you get on this side, if you start deconstructing and you leave church, then you're in a battle because you're trying to find out what is healthy. And if you were in a church 5 days out the week, if you grew up as a church pew baby, or you were a PK or serving any kind of capacity in church, you are not balanced because you literally spent your whole life up until that point in a system. And so when you get into this world of expanded consciousness, where you start creating the life that you want, it is extremely disorienting, because you're still looking for somebody to tell you what to do. And the Western Christianized thought will have you looking for Sky Daddy, as I've said before, looking for Sky Daddy outside of you, and deconstruction and decolonization will have you reconnecting to yourself. And that is why the connection between your spirit and your mind are extremely important in this, and why deconstructing and decolonizing is important, because it is literally the antithesis or the opposite of Western thought. And so learning to trust yourself again is just as important on the spiritual journey and your mental health journey, because you can check in with yourself and know something feels off, something doesn't feel right. No, it ain't a demon. I might, let me go talk to the doctor. I might need some blood work. I might need to talk to somebody. I might need to get more tools than my prayer, because prayer worked. But you know why prayer worked for my great grandma? So this is something that just hit me. You know why prayer worked for my great grandma? She didn't have access to anything else. By law, Black people didn't have access to other things. So they had to utilize the very things they could, whether it was their prayer closet. They might have a Black doctor in town, but if they didn't, it was their prayer closet. They were restricted from the very tools. And so, yes, there's power in it, and I'll never take it from anybody. There's power in prayer. But can you imagine when you couple the tools, the power of the spiritual, techniques of prayer and grounding and meditating and all of that, and do some cognitive behavioral therapy, and do some work on complex PTSD? If you couple all that together, do you know how whole you could be if you use it all? Use all your tools. So, but church won't teach you that. Church wants you, the Westernized church wants you dependent on the structure, because it's deeply invested in the capitalism. And that's a whole different concept for a whole nother day. So my whole thing is I'm going to encourage you on your spiritual and your mental health journey, use all your tools. Use
Yes.
all your tools.
Yes. Get better at the tools too. Like one of the
Yes.
things is you get better because one of the things about prayer to me is the vibration from the heart. And typically that's a request. A lot of times it's requesting something. But if you take that same thing and go from a requesting to a gratitude, and go from that prayer is looking and acting as though it's done. So it comes up in form of a prayer, and then typically prayer is an outward expression, and it actually goes out into the space and touches the ears of the people. And one thing that I will tell you is that I went through I went from Pentecostalism to working with a person that was, he was different. Dr. Gene Day, he was different. And so he really taught me differently about prayer. And now I've coupled a lot of what I do and what I know with prayer the way we used to pray. And the words, I believe, can matter. And then the spirit in which you operating from can matter, because you could be in desperation and the universe will, it goes for the feelings, right? It feels, how are you feeling? Oh God, when you're desperate, oh, help me, help me, help me, help me. And I believe that something could possibly do it, but that desperation is like, and that's kind of what seemed like back in the day what they wanted in church. They want you to be desperate. They want you to fall. They want you to fall on your face for God. And it was kind of like, I think there's a humbleness and there is a serenity to the self and to the higher self. And but the thing is that Sky Daddy is kind of like, I want you to care for me, help for me. And they always have these explanations of this ambiguous God that they describe, and then they try to use earthly things to bring it in reality. And it's just such a fallacy in a way. But what's crazy is it works on people's minds. Going from that, this is bringing into more what I would consider practical, the practicality of all this, the spiritual health and how it influences the mental health. I don't know if we can find of course, find a definition. Possibly we can post that in the banner as a mental health, because we got mental illness, which is there's typically a problem or an issue. And we get those things confused when a person is bipolar, narcissistic, malignant narcissist. You got that. But then when you go into mental illness or dealing with the brain, when you got got autism, and then you got the spectrum, and then the variants of that, which is you could be a genius, or literally you can be a nonverbal mental retardation and be considered autistic. And the difference between developmental disabilities, a lot of people get it all confused because they'll talk about a psych ward. A psych ward has people from the community or people that may have been on drugs. It has people that don't have developmental disabilities, right, that are considered mental retarded, meaning that they don't go to school, or they go to school in a special school. They got learning disabilities, right, that causes them to need assistance the way they function. I probably started doing some of that work in high school, working as a para, got out of high school as a para, then became an administrative liaison for a place that allowed people to work in their homes, but we had mostly HI, which we call head injury. And then we had people that were disabled. And so they could be functioning disabled, may not be able to speak, but people would get those people confused, and HI, head injury, people confused. Motorcycle accident. I worked with a guy that shot himself in the brain. I worked with a guy that numerous different issues, all the way down to then moving and working into the state institution, the state hospital, which is completely different than working at a mental institution versus a mental retardation facility. They won't mix those two people up. So it's very vast, and we don't really truly have a strong foundation on understanding these differences, because mental health has become kind of a popular thing to talk about, or we begin to talk about it over the last 20 to 40 years. Like, 40 years ago, you would probably have a therapist, but it wasn't. And he's like, oh, he crazy, you go to a therapist, And now, I mean, how long have we come along to actually realize that, wait, there is religious trauma. There is religion that causes you to question yourself. There is the religious practice that causes you to actually literally have mental illness within your mental health, and being able to identify and say, they off. Something's off about this, and this. Your behaviors are doing things like this, So someone's spirit can be sick, and that can lead to what we call mental illness or mental health issues, right? Where you feeling disconnected, meaningless, spiritually abused, and it shows up. It could show up, and I think Miss Marie might have a question, I don't know, but it could show up with chronic anxiety. It could show up as depression. It could show up as obtrusive, obsessive thoughts, obtrusive thoughts. It could show up in all kinds of different ways. I don't know if I thought there was a question one time. Oh, yeah, that I would love to talk about that. Yeah, I love that. Okay, mental health. Woo! Man, this is fire. I don't get what you, man. If anybody, I'll tell you, everybody should get them a Deidre. Mental health encompasses our emotional, psychological, social well-being, and it affects how we think, feel, and act. And it influences how we interact with others. So, mental health is almost like Jesus. It's almost like consciousness, in this a level of consciousness, but it's a physical level of who we are. Like, holy cow! Like, as we're talking spirituality and expanded consciousness, it is 100% how to shape, reshape, investigate your mental health. How to question your mental health, right? This is everything. Come on, man. You can begin a new life today. You can reshape your life now. The same things that they used to tell us in church, which was wild, because it could only be done within the structures of what they say. And they held us back and held us down and say, you could do this over here, and with Christ, you could do this, and with Jesus, you could do that. But Jesus is always affiliated and associated with their systematic structure. Come on, bro. Come on. And Miss Marie, you brought up something. I can't believe we've been on for 53 minutes. That's insane. I'm like, Boss Bro, I can talk for 3 hours. We have our first we have our first American Pope. Okay. And does and will it mean something spiritual realm? So the thing is everything that is on this planet has divine connection And the better we get at being able to read, interpret, see, connect, there were times that I know that the human essence could do this better, but it wasn't as easy to do the miracles and the things we could do because it was their intuition and their ability to create math through the spiritual realm. Okay. So I can create math. I can create, I'm going to tell you a real quick story. Cause I got a million of them. The Arabs created algebra. They created algebra. But if you go to the Kemet and then you keep going back, right? You look on the walls, they essentially began to formulate and create language. They created all kinds of different things, and they had powers and the abilities to do within consciousness that we have no idea that it was possible, because that's what they had come to, right? Using sacred medicines, using all kinds of different things. And so they're able to figure out how to move a rock without machineries. But that led us to where we are today. So I had that epiphany the other day that we can't compare then to now in terms of, yeah, they had more intuition, psychic ability. They had more energy. They had more powers, I believe, like human powers to tap into the spirit and get things to move and bend and whatever else. But it would probably be a less of them that could do it versus. And then the other thing is, like, when we want to fly, their science has perpetuated, and alchemy has perpetuated to get us to where we can just do it with but going back to that, anytime I'll tell you, there's always a spiritual tie to what happens on the planet, right? And we have a lot of ties to it, but also the spirits and ancestors and everything else that are also on the planet with us has a connection. And the Vatican is one of the most powerful things in terms of people and influence, in terms of kind of connected to, I have to tell you, they are really connected to, we can't deny God in people that we don't like. You can't deny that Trump used the power of God within himself to elevate himself to big as he is. It's a lot of ego, and the ego can really transfer. And he was able to elevate himself because he had such knowing into who he is, to be like, I'm gonna do it. And like, how you gonna do it? Right. And so I'll tell you 100%, that was all, whenever they were debating this and what was going on with the world, and the fact that their whole system can get totally messed up at the direction the United States is going, because you have a lot of money involved and a lot of craziness involved. But I believe 100%, spirit itself is involved, but them being big as they are and being able to influence. And just to give you a little background of the differences. First, getting somebody that is American is definitely like, I don't know who's on the stream. Forgive me for this. I mean, I'm going to just say it because I try to keep mine a little different, but it's a big fuck you. That's a huge one. By them saying we're going to put a first American, and we're going to not put, like, this last guy was like first edition conservative liberal, like conservative. Hey, we should do this. Hey, we should accept all people. This guy is like 100%. It is a big big. It's a bigger deal. He's young too. And it's a bigger deal that they have this Pope and put him into place. Anyone have any idea when you look at the 2.5 billion Christians across America, across the world? Do you have any idea how many Catholics across the world there are? How many are there in America? Right? Just Catholics in America. I love it. I love that you asked that. I know I wanted to mention it. I'm so, you got me so pumped up now. I need to have a.
Well, I was gonna say what makes it even greater.
Come on.
That what happened is that they've already done his genealogy, and if you've looked at the new Pope Leo the 14th, he has he's a little olive color, and they've done some genealogy on him already, and he descends from the Louisiana Creoles of color through his grandmother's side. And has Haitian ancestry through his grandfather, who was born in Port-au-Prince in 1864. So he's literally history hiding in plain sight.
And not only that, he would be tied to that, like you being.
He's probably a cousin. He's probably one of my cousins.
Right. But you being a practicing African spiritual, you've been an African spiritualist, like there's various versions of you call it Catholic, but there's mysticism all throughout Catholicism, right? And if you go back there, where they pick up a lot of their stuff in Catholicism.
Yes, Catholicism we use Catholicism to hide our practices in plain sight.
And well, I think Catholicism picked up some of their practices from
as well. Yep, it worked both ways.
They picked up some of their practices from earlier, but it's like, so with that person being tied to those things and mysticism, and I mean, it is. And then after what Trump, now he's trying to deny the fact that on the U.S. account that he posted himself. Like, how asinine can you be? I was like, man, it's like, I'm glad he did that. That's freaking awesome. Like, that's so awesome. Like, put a picture out with you being the Pope and show people how arrogant you are. Right.
That part.
Do it. Right? Because the thing is like your true colors come out. There were 67 million Catholics in America.
Yeah, most of my dad's side of the family are Catholics.
And the thing about Catholics and what Catholicism, the power that they have is, if the Pope decides something, he has a strong. I think the Pope can have a stronger influence over his people than never mind, not Pentecostals.
No, well, but you are right. I'll say that you are.
You can have a strong, right. Pentecostal, you could be like jump, and they'd be like.
Yeah, but the Catholic Church has a hold on the world. When it talks about if you look at the world population of Catholics, Catholicism, we're talking billions.
Oh, yeah, they have billions.
And that is why people care who the Pope is.
1.2 billion. 1.22% of the population in the United States. In the United States.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And remember the Bible that Christian churches use, the majority of Christian churches use, are the 66 books that were canonized by the Catholic Church. So even if you are not Catholic, the Catholic Church did decide what you would see in front of you as the Bible.
And they have another one too, don't they?
Yeah.
Isn't there a Catholic Bible?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's even less books.
Yeah.
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 So it's important. It's important. And
it's going to shift a lot. It's going to shift it's going to shift a whole lot, because that influence and that power. So what's going to happen overall, we're talking spiritually, and I'm going to tell you overall 1.4 billion, Jesus. I'm going to tell you, there's going to be a major shift in the Catholic Church. It's going to shift, and they're going to go after, they literally are going to go after the love of Christ, or almost the love of Christ consciousness. I really truly have a feeling that they're going to do everything possible to this current Pope is going to be a saint.
Easily, just like John Paul II became one. Easily.
I'll be a saint.
Just like Mother Teresa became one.
You're about to see a big disruption.
I'm here for it. Let's go.
It's going to be a big disruption, because it's a worldwide. This is a worldwide influence. This is Russia.
Everybody caters to whoever's in that office, the Pope. So Trump and his followers right now are having like mental meltdowns because they realize people are going to pay more attention to Leo,
especially now,
right? Then they're going to pay to him, and it's going to be really interesting to watch. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
When we hear that, I need to figure out how we can do a listening, how we can do a party. You know how they have those YouTube parties
for the whole ceremony. We should do one.
Just to talk, just to see what it's about, just to see what we can pinpoint, right? The power and the influence of individual people. When you think spirit, sometimes we get very esoteric. We get so far woo-woo in terms of when we think of spirit or spirituality. And the thing is spirit comes from within. Spirit is spirit, right? But it's like, I would say like spirit is spirit and the soul is within the body, right? You can call them one and the same, but the spirit is spirit and then the soul is in the body. But I'm telling you, like, you can be influenced, you can hear something and you can begin to shift something. They knew what they were going to do before that man was even in there.
It's always in the
conclave. The Pope,
the Cardinals know. The Cardinals know.
The Pope that just passed, boom, had already named him. They won't tell you that. They got to go in there and play the role, and they got to go in there and do their thing in the conclave, right?
Because the succession is so critical to keeping that institution intact. They're not going to leave it to happenstance ever.
And the last person that was in there and his influence on the world, like if you go in there as a conservative and just pandering to people and making people mad, mean, ugly, like the world doesn't like ugly. It feels ugly and they don't like ugly and they don't like the disruption. But I'm here to tell you that I really have a lot of I know that here's the thing. I know that whole system has a lot to do with what messed us up in a way. But I have the understanding that same system can be the system that shifts it, especially outside of this freaking country. Because we, the country, absolutely. Like, what is it? The term, like we are a narcissistic country. Like we think and believe that where we go and that we do have some great things in America. But one thing about America that we don't like to do is we don't like to uncover our shit, look at it, analyze it, talk about it. What happened to racism? Like, we weren't racist 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And it's like, well, racism wasn't as in your face. And Obama brought it into your face because he was black enough to be like, how did this dude get into office? How did he get into office, right? And And my thing is, this has nothing to do, we're not speak. It doesn't have to do with even politics, is because I can think the thing about the Democrats bid is a bigger problem, even though that I do agree with a lot of the mindset, but it could be a problem because of the fact that they want to show you one thing, act one way, but then be controlled by these corporations and allow these corporations and capitalism to still do what they do, right? From Coca-Cola doing with the way they do, from the big ag, the 10 food companies, Conagra Foods and so on and so forth, the big ag, and being able to control, FDA and all that. Like, our whole system is beyond corrupt. It's just bought and sold, right, by the corporate giant, and we're just pawns. Slavery has moved to a class system, and in that class system, it could be everybody. It just so happens that a lot of Black people are the lowest classification, regardless of money. It's the lowest classification within the class system because they have always been dogged, right? It's easy to dog them. And then after the history and everything that's happened, it's like sometime we can make it easier for us to be dogged. What are you doing? Why do you want to go down there and start shooting? I understand you got some issues. We've been dealing with some stuff downtown Tulsa. Like, go home, nigga. Jesus. Mental illness, mental health, right? Post-traumatic stress, post-traumatic slave, like spirituality. To me, spirituality today gets played off to the church because the church has been in the infrastructure has been there for so long. And now we have to blend mental health and mental health services and sciences with Christianity and not necessarily just spirituality. So you got to be like, oh, I'm going to go to a Christian counselor or a Christian therapist. Like, what is a Christian therapist? Like, what is a Christian counselor? Like, it's kind of a misnomer. It's in a way, like, I'm going to go to you don't go to a Buddhist counselor, you don't go to that, right? I could see you could be a counselor that specializes in understanding Christianity or understanding the people from that space, but they want to do it where it's like, we're going to follow God and then help you out. And it's, I don't know. That's just, it's down a rabbit trail that to me can confuse people even more from seeing their real self, who they really are and what they really need to be dealing with. I love that question. I love that. I mean, I could have an entire episode talking about the spiritual movement and the things. I honestly, I feel a lot of stuff pouring into me. Like, literally, I just felt the previous Pope, like, jolly, laughing, like, really, what is his last name? The last Pope? Francis.
Francis, yeah.
I felt Francis specifically laughing at Trump and just laughing at the whole system, although he had his own hangups.
Sure.
Most of these people can have hangups when it comes to race, depending on where they're from. I'd like to move on real quick to talking about healing and wholeness, right? Because we could talk about all the issues, but I want to talk real quick about healing and wholeness, right? So I want to offer some things when it comes to counseling, when it comes to therapy, right? One of the things I want to make known and really flat out for people to understand that a licensed family therapist, a licensed counselor, all the terms get thrown around. A psychiatrist, a psychologist,
Mm-hmm.
And then when we use when you say practicing clinician, we still have a show that I'm gonna end up posting on YouTube, and it's available if you haven't watched it, with Miss C.E. Anderson. Which was phenomenal. I didn't talk too much to show some of it tonight, but it's in the Patreon. I will get it together so that we will be able to possibly review some of that in 2 weeks. Next week we have someone, following week we have someone, but it's phenomenal on the things. But and then coaching is one of the other things that that is widely available. Whether it's good or not is another thing. But one of the things is, out of all those people, I don't believe that they're there to get rid of anxiety or sadness, your emotion. And even my degree of understanding coaching in my space, because a lot of people, when it comes to coaching, they like to be mentors and they like to be consultants. They like to tell people what to do. And my thing, it's all about listening. And it's all about being able to get a deeper understanding of who you are, and a third party, especially a counselor or a therapist. And there's various degrees of therapists, psychotherapy and such, that those people have at least a process and tool set to hear you ask the right questions, and then being able to help you. Psychiatrists would diagnose you. I think they're the main one that have the credentials and qualifications.
They're actual medical doctors.
Yeah,
they're actual medical doctors.
Right. And they can actually diagnose and say, you are XYZ. And they can prescribe medicine, but essentially they can really, let people know like what people are dealing with. And so when it comes to healing, Miss Deidre, you've been through a lot. You've been to therapists. You've been to, you just had a short stint in a crazy house. No, I mess with you. She didn't do that. I mess with her. I just want to make her laugh. Like, what?
I'm like, I did?
Yeah, you wasn't in a crazy house. You didn't live with somebody that was crazy.
Well, I did. Now that I did.
I mean, so you was in a crazy house.
I was living there again once. I was living in a crazy house. Yeah. That's the episode all by itself.
What have you done? Like, tell me, just, she's been pretty open for the most part, with family and dealing with various issues of a family, being born in a peculiar situation and all that, that's all part of it. Going through churches and experiencing things at churches, coming out of the church, right? But she's still a powerful executive director of an organization. She's worked with churches, and now she's one of the co-founders, if you will, of this expanded conscious movement with me. And my thing is, like, tell me some of the things in the sense of what you've done in your life and what has helped you, because you've had therapy before, right?
Absolutely. So the one thing I will say is that therapy was one of the greatest tools that I ever got. And it wasn't because, so when I started going through, when I grew up in a traumatic situation, grew up in it. had to endure it. The only thing I knew at a certain time until I got away to college was Bible, the Bible or Bible stories and things like that. So I used that heavily. And I found great peace in it because that's what I knew. When I got to college, I realized I needed a little more because I was still dealing with the side effects of the trauma and then trying to figure out how I'm going to like do college, survive. It was still an unhealthy dynamic, right? So I think I always knew that I needed to talk to somebody because I knew what I went through wasn't normal. But at the same time, you dealing with the social conditioning of what abuse is versus what discipline is, all those things. I hit my dark night of the soul where after 30, I think it was literally I was 33. I think I was the age that Jesus was. I just hit a roll. I hit a wall. I was tired of pretending that I wanted to interact with my abuser anymore. I had left church. I was sick of the job I was in. And I just got tired of putting on the front all the time. I just got tired, literally tired. And I still lived in Atlanta at the time, and it was really big for me to find a culturally competent therapist. I was trying to find a Black woman to be a therapist for me. And I found a psychiatrist first. And when I first went in, I mean, she said, "So what's going on?" And I couldn't even get my words out. I just started sobbing. And she was like, "Well, this is an indication that you should have been here a lot." Like she was like, just like, "Hey, you should have, if you can't even get it out, it's a good indication that you should have done this a long time ago." So the first thing we're gonna do is write you something so we can get those emotions in check. And then we were gonna start working through it. So I worked with a medical doctor, psychiatrist, and then I worked with a psychotherapist on therapy. I worked them together intensively for about a year and a
What
half.
are some of the things that they did? They do
Not
EMDR?
EMDR. A lot of it was cognitive behavioral therapy because I had to change how I was thinking. So we didn't get into EMDR. It was a lot of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is commonly called talk therapy. It's probably the most common type of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I got the tools with my education that I already had 2 psychology degrees. And I did that to try to help fix myself, but I still needed somebody to talk to professionally who had been doing it a little longer and somebody that could understand what I was going through. So I did that. And so I made some good strides. And then there were still some things I needed to let go, which was a long-term relationship and all those things. And as those layers came off, I went back into therapy when I moved back to this area for a little bit just to deal with the readjustment. And I did that for about a year. And so I didn't do a whole 12 years, but I started the journey 13 years ago, where, and I've gotten tools every time that I've gone through a therapy and things like that. And it has made my expanded consciousness journey so much easier because, like I said, I didn't have names for what I was going through. Like when I was going through the deconstruction, that was one thing. And then I was dealing with the deconstruction from the family systems because, heaven forbid you go non-contact with a family member. Who does that in Black households? I was doing all of that because I needed all of that so that I could heal and be the best person that I could be and not be living in anger and bitterness and eroding my own well-being and future. And so those tools helped me so I can pray all the prayers and love Jesus and go to get a psychiatrist, take my medicine and talk to a therapist. It's totally okay. And it actually helped me because then I was like, okay, well, they're not, I'm actually not crazy. The people, usually there's a saying that people that go to therapy are going for the people who refuse to go to therapy. You are, the reason why you go to therapy is because somebody you interacted with never did go to therapy. Come on. And took out their trauma on you. Well, I'm not going to repeat that cycle. I'm not going to repeat that cycle. So that's why I did it. And it really did help my journey now. So I can talk about things more openly. I can feel my feelings again. I mean, because I had been so disconnected from feeling. I would say things so matter of factly, and they'd be like, "You just described some of the most horrible stuff I've ever heard, and you just said it matter of factly, like it was no big deal." It was because I was totally disconnected from my feelings. And then when I really sat and processed what I had been through, it was like a watershed, you know? So that's what you see now at age 48 for me is a full culminate, like a culmination of trauma, recognizing trauma, healing, being isolated because I chose a certain path to get healed, isolating from church because I chose a certain path to deconstruct. I and still walking out and being okay and still finding community. Like the other side of it is I found chosen family, I found community in other places. I think that's the beauty of this space.
That's beautiful. No, that's beautiful. One of the things that I'm curious of is is there you said cognitive behavior therapy, right? And that is bam.
Thoughts, emotions. It's kind of pixelated, but yes, cognitive behavioral therapy, it's a cycle and it works on your thoughts, your emotions and behaviors and how one can trigger the other. So I had a big inner self-critic before.
And you have to discover that though, right?
They were like, you really are hard on yourself. You don't give yourself any credit for anything. Well, I grew up in a household where I was constantly criticized. Constantly. You know, either I thought I was, it was 1 minute like you think you're all this, or 1 minute it's like I'm too big, or you think you're smart, or you always want attention. It was always something negative. So dealing with those inner critic thoughts would shape my behavior. So then I would be in situations because of that inner critic, or because I constantly got constant criticism because the person that was raising me was, basically trying to dim me, then I would self-deprecate or shrink myself in situations so that people wouldn't see me or see what I have to offer. Those were all things that were self-sabotaging and really making me unhappy because it really wasn't who I truly was, because people didn't know me and know that I am just naturally like, I'm a natural leader. I'm a natural people person. I'm there to help. And so when I self-deprecate and make myself small, they be like, that's not the D I know. Because I couldn't see what they were seeing. I still saw the little girl that was being criticized all the time. And so that's how, your brain wires itself based on your experiences. And if you're dealing with a situation where you're getting constantly emotionally abused or physically abused, your brain wires itself. And so you have to learn to see yourself through a different lens as you're healing through from the trauma. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I saw Danny. Was it Danny? Yes.
Oh, Daniel Hilger.
I want to hold space for you, Danny.
We're gonna hold space for you. Let me tell you a story about this young man. Back in about, maybe 1986. This guy moved across the street from me in about 86. And we grew up together. And growing up in Kansas was a bit different. And you ever meet those people that Danny was a person that grew up. Black people and blackness was pretty much a big part of his life. And he's gone through a whole lot trying to figure out life. And we were really loved Daniel, Danny as well. He went by. Just thinking about our childhood and growing up. And at times back then, when you're in elementary and going through middle school, it's all you have are those friends. And Danny's had a journey learning in the institution of life, in the institutions of incarceration. And I bring that up specifically because I think it's part of your journey and part of your life, and you're not longer there. You're just getting through this season and this section, right? And I know other people that have to check the box, is what we call it, right? And the thing is like what you've been through and the things, the more you can get connected to that and say, you know, I've been through this, you can be empowered to have exponential success because you have nothing. There's you know, the fears of like, oh, you're gonna get locked up, are you gonna, it's like, no, you can come to this thing and you can learn a lot. And I think probably there's nothing that can teach you more about God or connecting to your higher self or your inner self or your thoughts in your head than being locked up into you know what I mean, whatever they put, whatever it is, 8x8, depending on how many people are inside the cell. And man, I have we will get connected. He moved close to where I'm at. And I'm thankful for you for tapping in and tuning in every Thursday, 8:30. Tap in, tune in. I want to get you inside the private community. There are some powerful, powerful people in there. Very powerful people and just loving people that will encourage your life, encourage who you are, and you will get something that you can't get from a church, I promise you. Because we thrive off of the flaws. We thrive off of the things that they call flaws, right? And it's just part of the journey. And thank you for tapping in, tuning in, and thank you for your comments, right? Anytime you open to speak, hey, tap in, expanded conscious community. You tap in. There's, you know, Deidre's here, but you got Miss Marie, you got Holly, you got Don. You know, he's a part of the community. I'm just letting you know there's other people, Tia, Miss Gwen. I mean, there are people that show up that will love you, encourage you. And we look, man, I will tell you, anybody that's going through anything right now, everybody, just know that I think the way we work through it, the way we live and work through it, and the way we get through this life experience is by understanding that we requested to be here, if you will. And some of our behaviors and some of our things that we've done in life can get us the results that we have. And sometimes unconsciously, right? The subconscious mind doing its thing. And so, brother, you are loved. And I look forward to, you know, you being able to, and anyone in this space being able to understand, as far as you got the spiritual health, you got mental health, but I am a metaphysician, bro. And I'm working on my practice. And the thing about mystics and mysticism, but the metaphysics is we truly know. Somebody asked me the other day, yesterday, by the fact, old guy that was cool, long beard, real scrubby. It was a white guy that was an old white man, probably about mid-60s white man. And he was sagging. Like that was, that was just his normal look. He just sagged his pants. He wasn't even trying to sag. And he looked at me and was like, so you believe in God? I said, no, I don't believe in God. He's like, you know, I just said, I don't believe something I know. He was like, oh, I like you. He was like, that's good. That's good. I was like, I have a bunch of them. Introduced him to Hadeen, The other guy, Hadeen, has a beard, white, in Spavinaw, Oklahoma. And I'm like, you can connect to this guy, right? You may not fully 100% connect to me, but I got somebody that you can connect to. And he really loved it. And so, woo! It just, oh, you got to go? Oh, okay.
I'm not going to leave this time.
Oh, okay. So I kind of lost it. That frequency of that thing went off, and I didn't even know it was going off. It just what? I think where I was essentially going though is that we go through things. We go through things in life, but in the metaphysics, we really connect to what we can shift or shape shift in this reality. And our thoughts are so important. Our thoughts are one of the most important things because our thoughts lead to things. Feelings come from thoughts. And one of the things, DJ says she'll be back. One of the things that I know in the biggest thing I'll tell you in metaphysics is the fact that, and the reason why we use meditation as one of the biggest tools, is that in order to shapeshift and bring yourself into the parallel universe, right? The various realities that we can shapeshift. Okay, I was living this reality, doing this. Now I'm going to, boom, I'm going to pull myself out of this, and I'm going to go into another space. In other words, in this space, I'm still going to become, right? You are whoever you are in the space that you are, but literally you could shapeshift and begin to not just think your way, but you begin to understand and know your way onto what the calling you have upon your life. And the way you do that is you lean in towards your desire, right? That is for the greater good. Right. Real quick, I got a quick gift, and we're going to this is the person that Miss Anderson, who is a psychotherapist, who is a Reiki, a level 2 Reiki. We would to explain that later. But this is who was I interviewed this past Friday. I will probably show this. I'm going to probably make it live eventually on YouTube. Right now, it's available to all of our Patreon people. Where you can go in there and listen to this interview. It's super powerful. It's life-changing. There's been people that I heard that shed tears. Let's listen to a little bit of this. I have to come the Pentecostal out of me. She must have said something that was fire. I'm expanded. I've been doing it for a long time, and my theology is real different from other people, but I still connect to some of the roots, and I don't need a hoop or a holler anymore. I just need those words.
Yeah.
Vibrate in this frequency. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. We're spiritual beings living in this very physical, tangible world. And I think that we make the mistake of only seeing and only thinking and only feeling in this 3D world, right? I spend so much time trying to get women connected to their womb, trying to get them connected back to their intuition, and trying to get them connected to their spirit. Because we have been conditioned, right? We've been conditioned to betray and abandon ourselves and listen to all these other voices. And then we wake up one day and we go, oh my God, how did I get here? What do you mean, how did you get here? You chose them over yourself, whether that was your parents, right? Because we choose our parents a lot of times, attachment versus authenticity. So for me, I'll give you some of my personal story. So I was not supposed to be here. And when I say that, I mean that my mother went into labor 3 months before I was due, right? I was 2 pounds when I was born. And they were like, oh, she's not going to make it. Like, you guys come say goodbye. Yeah, we got her hooked up to all these things, but you know, she's not viable, right? And so I grew up in DC in the 80s where the crack epidemic was at its height, and the world was really, really scary around me. But even in that, with growing up with a parent who's an alcoholic, and growing up with generations of shame being projected onto me, I was still very much connected to what was around me and what my purpose was. Like, even at a young age, right? And I was always told, oh my gosh, Candace, you want too much. Oh my gosh, you're so sensitive, right? Because I would feel everything so deeply. I would hear things, I would see things. I'm 5 years old and calling adults out on things that don't look right, don't feel right. So I literally, one of my neighbors, her nickname for me was Miss Gromy. Yeah, I just remember that. She used to call me Miss Gromy because I was not like, I'm sorry, what you're saying isn't kind, and I'm a human, so I want to be talked to this way. And you know, in a Black family, that's not that, we don't do that, right? It's what stays in this house, you know, happens in this house, stays in this house, which teaches us not to feel, not to think, and not to trust. And then we also learn children are to be seen and not heard, right? So we lose our voice. So I had to go back and rediscover who I was in order for me to walk in the calling and walk in my soul's purpose in this work, because I wanted to be an orthodontist.
Wow. But you were already brilliant. You were already, like, from a kid, you had already tapped in and tuned into something, like you had already been here before, right? And it was, and therefore they did not understand or could not. That goes back to, honestly, my saying on psychology and a lot of the psychological studies. I love Carl Jung. I love different people, but the thing is a lot of those, it wasn't based on anything to do with blackness or Black people, research wise.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. It's all standardized white European worldview lens experience, which is why I created the space that I now have for people who look like me, for people who experience like we do, right? Could feel safe. Could feel safe. Because if I tell a Black woman to go no contact with her mother, that's not going to go over well. No. No. That's not going to go over well.
The thing is, sis, the thing is, your healing is in the no contact with mama.
So then for Black women, we have to figure out how we do that while honoring the culture. And that is the way I help people that look like me, that look like you, navigate their mental health and not manage, but eliminate stress, eliminate toxicity, eliminate those things. Having my people understand their feelings. Oh, you're feeling angry? Well, you know what that probably is? That's probably disappointment displaced.
Woo! I think, Kenya, if you still hear me, but I'm here to tell you that right there is a powerful talk. It's a powerful talk. I've been on here for a minute. And so it's, hour and 44 minutes. I know I can keep it going. I'll have you here late because it's already late. But that you'll be able to see the rest of that talk online on YouTube here soon. I'll post it and let you know. Make sure there's no questions. You lost. I think we're back. Yes, man, I'm telling you, there is some powerful, well, she's a psychotherapist. And so, and then she mixes a lot of her experiences from church and her experiences with various disciplines, right? When in Alabama, before the fights broke out in Alabama with the people trying to attack the black guy, her and some ladies went down to the water, and they were calling her, some of the church people were calling her a witch because they went to the water. But one of the things is I met her, seen her content on the internet, and she followed me on Instagram. And so I followed her back and started seeing her post. And I was like, dear God, this is powerful. Woo. I was like, and it wasn't all that. It was just seeing a Black woman specifically talk about various different things that you don't hear. But then this interview was her first interview that she was able to really break it down and start talking about her religious background, her religious experience, and how she began to basically deconstruct. And she has never done a lot of this publicly, but she got the call internally that she was able to, it was time she can do it. And so wrap up just real quick on the talk of spiritual mental health. And one of the things I will say is that your words matter. If you speak into your victimhood, if you speak to yourself like a victim, you will live like one. And I'm not saying that when you go through something and experience something as a person that is the victim, that you don't need to call out your experience and call out the individual or person in your life and say, no, that's what happened to me. If you speak from your essence, your reality will begin to match it. And one of the things I know for sure is healing begins to happen in community amongst individual people. And the reason why a lot of people are coming together in spaces like this, they're coming together because of the fact there's community and there's healing within it. And it's not about dogma. It's not trying to keep you here with us because you want to do the right thing and follow, quote unquote, God. We want you to connect to your higher self. We want you to connect to something that is within you, also without you. In the same way that trauma happens within relationship, so does the repair. So the way we create spaces and have these talks is for transformation, right? So I believe the future of this in this space, the true believing the future of mental health and is understanding the spiritual connection, and then also moving into understanding consciousness, the consciousness from awareness and the consciousness, the pure consciousness. That means the outside of everything there is. From therapists to life coaches to energy workers, shaman, it's time that they all come together and they create a healing model, or a model for healing, where the diagnosis of what you are dealing with isn't your destiny. Where empathy, what they try to talk about being bad, is more important than the ego. Where science and the soul walk hand in hand, and it works together. This ain't no woo-woo. This is true. Miss Deidre's back. The same way we clean our body, the same way we, the way you take showers, you can do your energy that way. You can clear your energy. The same way you go to the gym, you can actually do things to your spiritual conditioning. The same way you nurture your soul is the same way you can feed your soul. Go within or go without. That's another saying of Bishop Carlton Pearson. I'm sorry, but I'm full of them. I heard a lot of it. And let your light shine. There's a guy by the name of Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard was one of the first people I really got connected to outside of just knowing Bishop Carlton Pearson's story. Neville Goddard was someone he was a white facing Barbados man. And he studied under a guy by the name of Abdullah. And I believe Abdullah was a Kabbalah, basically Jewish mysticism, but but Neville Goddard has a book called The Feeling is the Secret. Because what you feel, it's not just what you think, but what you feel. If you look up The Feeling in the Secret, it's really that's a book. I think it's a wonderful book. It should be a cheap book. And I think it's amazing because he was a metaphysician, but he had a lot of psychology tied into it. Here's a statement he had in, he has a lot of stories in there, right? And he mixes scripture, which is kind of intriguing. I won't go too deep into it, but he talks about sleep. He talks about prayer. He talks about, spirit. And he talks about feeling. And one of the things is I was talking to someone recently, and you could say all the words. You could say certain words and you don't know you're saying them. And the universe is listening. And then you can also feel a certain way. And that energy of feeling is the most powerful. It's like gratitude. If you feel gratitude in the heart, according to the Heart Institute, is, I don't know, I think 40,000 or something times more greater energy than the brain. So when you pull down to the heart and you feel in the heart, right, your wholeness, and you begin to learn to love yourself and stop taking away that negative, you feeling and hearing that negative energy from your heart, from your life, right? And begin to have gratitude just for life in general, and just to have gratitude for what you do have, right? The small things you have begins to shift things around you and around who you are. Last thing I'm going to say is, you probably noticed, if you're listening to me, there has been, I posted some things about Beyond Belief, which is a experiment, if you will. And I've gone through a process with using artificial intelligence specifically to deliver music, tonality, chord structure, right? things that are designed to open or close, right? If you hear dun dun dun, right, it can cause you to actually go into emotion or feeling. You go to a movie and they can put you into an emotional state. Go to church, they put you into an emotional state, and it's so much easier for you to receive or to believe or to take in what they got to say. And so it should be about 15 songs with meditations. I plan on taking those lyrics and putting them possibly in a book. And so that way that when you first get it, you can actually, back in the day, you used to be able to get a CD or album and you would actually pull out the paper and you get to read the lyrics. We've gone from those days because we just left them. I don't care why. But these lyrics are very important because it's designed for you to be able to listen and hear and have a state, a hypnotic state, because I believe words are powerful. And here's something that Deidre probably hasn't heard. And I'm debating on if this version is going to make it or another version is going to make it. But we're going to just take an adventure and we're going to listen to this. Okay. And this is exclusive. This is not in Patreon. This is tonight for us to hear and take in. Let your light shine, because the feeling is the secret. Just close your eyes if you can and just kind of focus on your heart and listen to these lyrics.
It's not how many times you pray, not just the words you say. It's not the thoughts you try to hold, it's the fire you let unfold. It's how you move, how you breathe, the truth you choose to believe. You're the spark, you're the flame, you're the voice behind the name. So let your true color show. Only you can really know.
The feeling is the secret. No matter if you believe it. Go within or go without. Burn the fear, erase the doubt. Divine by design. So let your light shine. Let your light shine. Let your light shine. Let your light shine. When the world tries to dim your glow, that's the time you let it grow. Silence all the noise outside. Feel the truth you hold inside. No more shadows, no more shame. You were born to light the flame. You are soul, you are whole. You're the one who's in control. So let your true color show. Only you can really know. The feeling is the secret. No matter if you believe it. Go within or go without. Burn the fear, erase the doubt. Divine by design. So let your light shine. Let your light shine. Let your light shine. Let your light shine. What you feel becomes your fate. Feel it now, don't hesitate. You don't chase, you don't seek. You become what you believe. The feeling is the secret. Feel it now, don't just speak it. Divine by design. So let your light shine.
Love it.
It's amazing. Like, that came to me last night. Literally. And it just, when it comes, it just comes. And you just have to go with it, right? The feeling is a secret, no matter if you believe it, right? Divine by design. Beautiful. Anyways, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Miss Gwen, we love you. We appreciate you. You are amazing. And thank you so much. Miss Marie, yes. We know, and we can always depend on you, no matter what. We appreciate you. Most definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Miss Velma. Most definitely. Yes, Miss Gwen, we appreciate it. When we do these talks, to be honest, there's a lot that you do to help other people, but sometimes it's very therapeutic to go through the talk yourself so you can learn for yourself. Right? I think any good speaker, teacher, they could experience life that way, where you'll hear it and you'll be like, whew, man, that hit me. I'm learning. I love it. But it's so beautiful. That was great. And make sure I go through any more. Yes, brother Don Jackson. Thank you so much. Miss Holly, thank you so much. Oh, there's a hug for you, D.
Thank you, Holly.
And Miss Keisha says 33 was a pivotal year.
Yeah, it really can be.
Yep, I think we're good. Awesome. I think we are good. I guess back coming in hot next week, we have a she's up to be a psychotherapist, but she's also really versed in other practices. It doesn't come to mind. I think with some light work and some other things, but she was, I believe, a member of Higher Dimensions. And she lives here in this city. She has some knowledge of some plant-based medicine, and in the private community, most likely we may have some conversations about some of those things too, just because it's very intriguing and interesting. And so, anyways, love you guys, and we will see you next week. Right? All right.
And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
Ooh, absolutely. Happy Mother's Day to everyone that's out there. For sure, for sure.
Yep.
All right. See y'all next week.
I was raised in the echoes of sermons and signs, told who I was, what to believe, how to walk the line. Kneeled at the altar, searching for grace, but all I found was fear wrapped up in faith. But something deep inside kept calling me. A whisper in the dark said you are free. Not in the rules, not in the chains, but in the love that calls my name. Learning to love myself, trust myself, even when I think I'm wrong. Learning to be set free, learning to be, learning just to be. No longer bound by the weight of my past. Took off the guilt, let it burn in the ash. I don't need permission to stand in the light. God ain't a place, God is inside. God is inside. Something deep inside keeps calling me. A whisper in the dark says you are free. Not in the rules, not in the chains, but in the love that knows my name. Learning to love myself, trust myself, even when I think I'm wrong. Learning to be set free, learning to be, learning just to be. Deep inside keeps calling me. A whisper in the dark says you are free. Not in the rules, not in the chains, but in the love that knows my name. Learning to love myself, trust myself, even when I think I'm wrong. Learning to be set free, learning to be, learning